that I typically work is I'll hold onto an object. Did you bring any objects today at all?
I did. I have an object.
Cool, great.
Yeah.
And maybe hold on to it, and we'll go from there. Perfect.
That's my little object.
That's so sweet.
I brought a stuffed animal toy monkey that was my father's since he's been a child. And when Tyler was reading my mom, he kept gathering, someone has a monkey. I don't know, I keep saying a monkey. And I was in the other room like, oh my God, I have the monkey. Like, my mom didn't even remember the monkey's name.
Okay, so I'll scribble, I'll just kind of communicate everything that's coming through, and then we'll kind of backtrack and I'll ask you what makes sense.
Okay.
So let's see, There's a feeling that comes across, and it is in reference to Dad's passing. There's a feeling of not having full closure of like being actually to be there in the moment of passing. There's a feeling of like, I don't want you to be here when I'm actually passing away. It's like, I for your sake, I want you to just not have that in your memory.
It's interesting, because he passed when they weren't there, I think.
And there's a feeling when this comes through that he actually would have timed his passing. The feeling is that he was holding on and he was waiting.
Right.
And that would have been done with purpose and with intention.
Yeah. His parents didn't know he was dying.
Right.
He just kept it a secret, so he wanted them to come and see him.
Right.
And then he wanted to say goodbye to them and like say goodbye to all of us. And then after everyone left, he ended up like passing away.
And that was his way of having closure. So please note that.
Aww. This was my dad's stuffed animal since he's been a baby.
Right.
And he always kept it in his closet, just always had it.
Right.
And when he was dying, we had a hospice at our home, and he kept asking for the monkey. The monkey's name was Jocko. And it was in his bed like when he passed away. It's something I've had since he's passed away, and I've kept it with me at every house that I've had or whatnot. So it's, you know, like really sentimental to me. So it's a beautiful thing to have Tyler be able to channel that for me.
He's acknowledging that he should not have been left alone
Okay.
at a time when he was left alone. And that's coming in, and that's what he's putting a lot of emphasis on. The person who should have been there to monitor wasn't monitoring. And it's like, I trusted you to be there, I trusted the role that you were supposed to have to help me,
Right.
and you left. And it's like, of all times, you should be right here.
Did something happen while he was abandoned?
It's an interesting thing with this because I feel like when he was abandoned, that would have been an ideal time for him to try to reach 911, to try to call for help, to try to get help. At this time, he realized something was wrong while he was alone. And that's when he was conscious and realizing something's wrong here. But I just don't feel like he had someone to like say, hey, I'm having a medical emergency, something's happening.
No one was there to say that. Yeah, okay.
And so after I realized, okay, there's something wrong going on in here, there's this feeling of, oh, this medication kicks in.
Oh, I see.
I suddenly become affected by this medicine. So it's kind of like a feeling of like, oh my God, what do? I don't want to waste time. Like clearly something's happening, and this happens very fast.
I think what hurts more than anything else is that not only was there a need for someone to be there for him, but there was a trusted person, a person that he trusted, a person that was in that inner circle, and that person wasn't there. And just to hear that, just really, it tears you apart. I just wanted to just cry.
I have a woman coming through, having me talk about her heart. And this is very clear in the way that this comes through. She's very insistent to acknowledge, no matter how I died, I need them to know the heart. I need them to know the heart. And there's a feeling of having a susceptibility to a heart arrhythmia and also having a susceptibility just to a heart issue. But I can distinctly tell there are other aspects to this passing. People talking about this, discussing this heart thing, but it's something else. It's like, or I die of something else, people think I die of something else. And there's just an emphasis on basically saying like, people don't know the full picture of how, to what extent this really affected me. But it's a weird way for it to get presented from someone to just randomly pop in. Have there been recent discussions about an individual having like a heart thing? Have people said someone had a heart condition?
Yeah, my ex-wife.
Okay, this feels heavy.
Oh boy.
Let's see what we get. Give me 1 sec. This is strange. You have like a weird death here coming through, is like the way I need to kind of process this. Whoever this was, and it would have been a female, not a male, I'm also seeing music signs. This is interesting the way this comes across. She's having, like, what is this? She'll like, joke. This is weird. I don't know what it is. She's, like, doing this weird hand thing with me. It's like a funny, like a weird, she's just being silly. It's like a funny, random, like, silly, like she's...
Is she loud?
She's very, very direct the way this comes across. Someone might go by a nickname. I'm getting a reference to, it's like a name I've never heard before. It'd be like a really unique one.
I think we all know what's going on. Well, most of us.
I don't know this name, but it's funny because she's the type that could have given advice and told everyone, like, get out of that relationship. He's not good for you. But when it came to getting that advice herself, it was much harder.
Oh, that's so true. We used to have to argue for hours. She is not lying. I used to be like, and then she would tell me, well, I just had to argue with you to get my point across. And she was like, I knew an hour ago that you was right. I'm like, what are you doing to me?
That's Lisa.
Yeah.
But there is a reference to South America, in South American countries. Do you know if she had visited at any point Central America, from your knowledge?
Honduras.
Okay. And then she's referencing to a car accident. And this is interesting because she's placing these two together, but she's having me acknowledge that if this had happened in a different country, this wouldn't have happened. But I wouldn't think that it would happen to me in the States. So the reason why I'm going to describe this is if someone is not familiar with the way that we drive in a different country, and as a result we die, had we been on the road and perfectly capable, we might have been able to manage in the United States, you know, somewhere where we might have
I
been
know what you're
familiar.
talking about because it was only 2 lanes
Right.
when she got in the car wreck.
Right.
And it's the way that the roads are.
Right. Interesting. Okay. She's just, from her perspective, happy that no one else was killed in this incident. She's more focused on others and their well-being. Unique.
And it was
kind of
8 people in the car, and
Okay.
she's the only one who died. Everybody could have. A lot of people got hurt.
Right.
Bad.
Right.
But she's the only one who
She's
didn't
the
make
only
it.
one. Wow. Oh my gosh.
Everything you said, you were dead on. Like, she was in the car in Honduras, and the road was weird.
I'm so sorry. This energy of this younger woman is like almost insistent in the way this is coming through. There's an acknowledgement. I'm seeing a symbol of putting lipstick on a mirror, this is strange. It's a message in lipstick is the way this comes through, and it's a symbol, but it's coming through to kind of help convey this individual's personality. But I'm referencing to literally lipstick on a mirror.
You know, there's no way that he would have known that. Kind of blew me away that he knew.
I don't know what this is, but I'm seeing an image basically of like a big hat. And I need to highlight like this big old, like it's almost like a silly, how do I put this? It's a hat that we would wear almost like, this seems like in a special event, but they're very ornate in the way this comes across. Seems to have some form of a significance in a sentimental way. There is a sentimental significance on the month of May that I need to bring up. There's also a reference to Kentucky that I need to bring up as well, strangely. But I'm having to joke with you about Kentucky for some reason. I don't know, it's a state. I'm not sure why it's coming through in a funny way, but there's an acknowledgement of Kentucky, and I'm seeing that.
Well, you've kind of hit a few different things. It's, one was lipstick on a mirror, which is something that I used to always do. We used to write messages back and forth.
Right.
And I met my daughter's mother in the month of May in Kentucky.
Nice.
With a crazy hat on, like you mentioned, at the Kentucky Derby.
Ah, that's the thing.
In all honesty, I was really trying to throw Tyler off because I didn't really want to bring up Anna Nicole, and I didn't want to talk about it at first, and I wanted to see if he actually went there, but he was getting so much talk about Anna Nicole, not knowing it was her, and it was hard for me to even keep up. But it was so spot on in so many ways, and like the lipstick on the mirror, you know, some of the things that he talked about, no one really would know.
This is gonna sound a little strange. I don't know if I want to bring this person through, but there's someone else that's popping in. We have a younger woman who's stepping forward who feels like she passed away too soon. And when she's coming through, she's making my lungs hurt quite a bit. Mentally, this feels strange. Physically, this feels strange. She's blaming an outside influence and saying that she was in a very manipulative situation where I actually feel like an outside person was detrimental in influencing a lot of her actions or inactions in certain areas. There is reference to a B initial. B. put this? She would have been very, oh, well, okay, she's giving me more, so I have to kind of, do you mind if I go with it?
Go for it.
I just saw Britney Spears. So that's usually reference to Britney, the name Britney.
Brittany Murphy. Oh my God.
Also interesting, it was a couple weeks ago, I was just hanging out. I heard Robin Williams come through. And he acknowledged that he was going to come through at some point. And so it's interesting because throughout this, I've always had like a weird kind of a connection mentally with you and him. Like I've placed them together odd enough. But when he did come through, it was very brief and it was almost like he was going to try to come through again. How close of a relationship did you have to him or did you know him?
I knew him and he was somebody that I saw a lot when I was much younger.
Right.
I met him when I was a child and then he did comedy at this comedy club that I lived across the street from.
Right.
So he was very famous at that point, and you know his death was really, I think, hard for the entire comedy community. I knew him as most people kind of knew him, but then I knew him a little personally, and I think that he was also kind of unknowable.
Sure.
That he was very difficult to connect with on a personal level because he was very shy. He was a bit embarrassed by his own fame and his own largesse because people would freak out when they'd see him. For me personally, what Robin Williams always did was there was like tough lessons because he would always bump me at the comedy club, so I would have to go on after him, and that's how I learned how to do comedy, is bombing after him for my entire childhood. I was really a child doing comedy, but I had to go on after him. It was so terrible. I learned incredibly well from him, so I think that was the greatest gift.